This is a series of journal entries covering the Swallow's Nest and Crowning 2019 Europe tour. Crowning are a screamo band from Chicago, Illinois, and Swallow's Nest are a screamo band from New Zealand. Last year, we had the pleasure of doing a split 7-inch release together, and we were both offered to play Crimea Riverfest in Germany. Crowning said they would, but only if it was with us. So we booked a tour around it, and a year later, here we are. I'm not sure who is going to read this, so I am going to try to be as general as possible. My aim is for this to be accessible to those like myself, who I would consider recently indoctrinated to DIY punk culture, and anyone else who wants to hear the story without any frills or unnecessary embellishment. Simply put, this is where we went, what we did, and this is how I felt. My name is Matt, and I play guitar in Swallow's Nest. The flight to Germany was a punishing 28 hours, and I felt ready to explode if I spent any more time at an airport. We were picked up by Tomi, our tour driver, who drove from his home in Croatia the night before. This is what he does. We drove to Versmold, a small town in northwest Germany, where we met Lars and Sabine. Lars forgot we were coming today. He told us to fuck off. I think he was kidding. I have been up since Wednesday morning, and now it's Thursday on the other side of the world.
Hello, my name is Jonathan. My counter-narration will serve to provide the unnecessary frills and embellishments the story so aches to contain. For it was at this point that the members of Crowning began a series of long yet unremarkable flights that would eventually find them in Germany as sore and sleep-deprived as their Kiwi counterparts. An unprecedented heatwave was rolling through Western Europe, and Crimea Riverfest laid in its wake. To combat this, we ate the original food, smoked the original smokes, and band after band took their turn screaming at the sky. But despite our efforts, the temperature continued to rise.
I am so buzzed to be over here that I don't care that I have been slowly melting for the last 2 days. Justin from Crowning threw up after his set and was out of action for the rest of the day. Apparently, a couple of locals saw him and were very supportive, which made the experience that much more humiliating. Made it to Berlin and played a matinee show in a beautiful old building with anti-fascist graffiti everywhere. We met up the next day and drank in the park by the Berlin Wall. We met Lowe's friend, James Rakestraw, who used to play drums in Infant Island. His name sounds made up, but apparently isn't. We call him Rickshaw. Someone suggested that he tag along for the remainder of tour. We met some interesting people at the bars we went to, like the guy who moved here 2 weeks ago to make it as a bedroom pop producer. He seemed offended when Gabe didn't want to hear his music, played through an iPhone, in a crowded bar.
It's a 3-hour drive to Hamburg to play in an equally gorgeous venue that we weren't allowed to take pictures in. And while we recognize that makes this segment fairly anticlimactic, we promise to make up for it shortly. We load out, get in the vehicles, and drive straight through the night. It's 13 hours to Vienna, and with the adrenaline from the show still coursing through us, we press on. Lowell, high on e-cigarettes and Fatboy Slim greatest hits, drove like a tourist on the Autobahn. But the sun doesn't go down for long, and at 4 a.m., it returned to remind us of our tired bodies. By 6 a.m., delirium had set in, and after stepping in human shit, we lost load to a special brand of psychosis.
Our set was a 25-minute sprint. It was the best I'd felt all day. It's amazing how gig mentality switches you over, and you don't realize you've had no sleep, and your whole body hurts until it's over. Wake up, eat, drive, play, repeat. That has been our routine for the last week or so, and I think we're all starting to feel it. Except Gabe. He seems to thrive under these conditions. That bastard can sleep on anything, and showers don't bother him at all. You get to the 3-day mark, and this layer of sweat and grime forms over your whole body, and then nothing can ever harm you. What an inspiration. Last night's show in Graz was great. Justin's sample pad didn't work. Vanessa's guitar cut out a couple of times, and Lowell cut his face on something. Fuck it. Great set. We dug really deep for this one. The last few days, I've been sleeping on wooden floors, and I'm feeling pretty beat up. Hands are cut from all the thrashing, a bruise on the forearm of my picking hand from where it hits the body of the guitar. All that sweat and heat. I'm losing electrolytes.
Later that night, at a local bar, the man would become irate and threatening before throwing a chair at them. That same night, Lo would drunkenly urinate in Yakov Alloway, something he didn't realize until later the following morning, and still feels very bad about. Vanessa stepped on a snail, and it made a terrible and sickening sound. At this point, it was clear we had brought enough destruction to Graz, and it was time for us to move on and victimize the Czech Republic.
one.
Yeah.
Because it's
pretty small.
I'm sorry that we don't have more mattresses.
Honestly, don't worry.
Everyone over here is really nice. The European DIY scene is organized, connected, and sets a really high standard of hospitality. Erlangen is about the same size as Dunedin, and the lineup was pretty diverse, so it felt a lot like playing a show back home. There were some awesome locals there, and we probably sold more merch than we were expecting. I'm feeling pretty down at this point. I've clearly fallen for this lifestyle, and it didn't take long at all. That wasn't smart. I need to be more careful. I'm not sure if the others feel the same. Do I need this the most? We got to Metz and drove to the country where we had booked an Airbnb. There is a small football pitch outside, and we start kicking a ball around, waiting for the others. I immediately feel better. Me and Gabe put our collective chef experience together and put out a massive spread on a table under a tree. And we had a big family meal. Great end.
There's a strange energy to a daytime set, the novelty of seeing something out of place. But the vibe is always off. Everything feels less important. Too much is peripherally visible. But it's great for photography. Meanwhile, outside, someone was tagging Tomi's van with illegible words. It didn't seem to bother him. The man is unflappable. By the time crowning went on, the room was different. The light was warmer, and the crowd felt more intimate. Someone killed the house lights, and an amber haze cast over the environment. Crowning played what easily felt like the best set in the history of the band. time where a win was greatly needed. They were bathroom emergencies that result in half the team pulling over by the side of the road. Dave used his flannel shirt, still soaked in sweat, to make a makeshift shield to hide Vanessa as she peed all over her shoes. Paris, we won't forget you.
That's the 90-10 one, right? Yeah. I think it'll be okay.
So just break on through to that other side, you know?
Punchline hunting season put on the show and played first, putting us all to shame. Lowell decided that they should spontaneously add a doom riff into the crowning set, one they never learned or rehearsed. It met with the expected skepticism bad ideas are usually met with. Dave made a deal that they would do it if Lowe wore a hooded winter jacket throughout the set. He agreed. They played a doom part, and it absolutely sucked. We press on. Tomi sustained himself on a diet of Red Bull and outdated techno. There was a plan for everybody to get matching tattoos, but lacking any sort of arrangements, its hopelessness was predetermined. Inexplicably, they found a tattoo shop a block away that was willing to take 10 of them, including Tomi. To celebrate this, they went to the nearest coffee shop and got biblically stoned. The kind of stone where no one speaks for 45 minutes. Outside, Justin fought with his poncho until he was too self-conscious to continue trying. They split up, with half staying in the red light district to further lose their grasp on reality, and the other half braving the Museum of Human Deformities. Coffees were enjoyed, beers were drank, street food was eaten, and the team was entertained by a Danish guy named Christian, who was equal part charming and annoying as fuck. They sat on the edge of the canal, passing joints and wine bottles before catching the last train back. And it was one of the rare times when Dave knew something was cool while it was happening.
Doing anything with 12 people is a bit like herding cats at the best of times, and with my lack of sleep, I'm finding it pretty tedious. I bail for a couple of hours and check out the cathedral. It was a good call. I felt way better afterwards. We met up with Ingo and loaded into the venue. Rakestraw jumped on the kit for the last crowning song so Justin could mosh to his own band. Justin plays left-handed, so it was pretty goofy. I'm feeling pretty burnt out. We woke up the next day and Ingo made us breakfast. I feel like shit and we've got one show to go. Then I drink 4 coffees and read a sociology book titled How to Not Let Your Emotions Rule Your Life. I am so lucky to be surrounded by great people that can help me snap out of my own bullshit. Touring can be like that sometimes. Long nights, no sleep, and spending all day in a van. We have one show to go with our friends from the other side of the world, and we're going to end on a high note. Gießen was fucking awesome. R. Joseph played first. Really washed out guitars, tuned super low, somewhere on the blackened hardcore spectrum. We fist pumped for one last time during the crowning set, and in the last song we picked up low and carried him around the room. I had been planning this since the Paris show, and was really worried that we were going to drop him on the concrete floor. Lowe described it as the most terrifying and glorious moment of my life thus far. We almost tore our gear apart, left nothing in the tank. I finished the set with no strings on my guitar, on the floor, screaming feedback at full volume. And I don't want to go to sleep, but we leave at 6:30 tomorrow. So we get the mattresses out, and by the time I'm set up, the last 2 weeks have caught up with me, and I pass out. Time to write the next chapter.
Dave slept in the car for only a few hours before a stranger opened the door and asked him what he was doing there. He apologized and said that he would be leaving soon. They returned to Frankfurt Airport, a place they would spend more time than anyone ever thought possible. Hugs were exchanged. Half the team returned to Berlin, and the other half boarded the first of many flights home. Bittersweet as it was, it felt good to be apart from the group for a moment. Dave had an 18-hour layover in Amsterdam and treated himself to a tiny hotel room where he promptly fell asleep for any numbers of hours. When he regained consciousness, he returned to the red light district. He walked past the tattoo parlor and bought a joint at the same cafe they had once shared a coma in. It was a Sunday, and he sat by the canal and watched everything close around him. He wondered what that snail would be doing right now. In 6 weeks, he would be a father, and in 5 days, they would play funeral designs for the last time. But for now, he was alone in Amsterdam. And for now, that was okay.